This is Mary Cooks, and I'm Mary. And guess what we're going to make today? We're going to make cream puffs. And these are not only great cream puffs by themselves, but we're going to make a special hot chocolate topping for them. So let's get started. In a heavy saucepan, we have 1 cup of water. And to the 1 cup of water, we're going to add a stick of butter. And I've cut the stick of butter up into pieces. We're going to put that on medium-high. What we want to do is we want the water to come to a boil, and we want the butter to melt. So 1 stick of butter, 1 cup of water. The water's come to the boil, the butter has melted, and now we're going to add 1 cup of all-purpose flour, and add it all at one shot, one time. Stir that, lower the heat a little bit, but still keep it on the heat. And stir this through. This doesn't take very long. As you can see, it's starting to congeal, and this is what we want it to do. We want it to pull away from the sides of the pot, and we want it to come into a boil, form a ball. B-A-L-L. And as you can see, this is forming up really nicely. This is called choux paste, French word for cabbage. And cabbage is what they say the puff pastry looks like. So here we go. So that has formed into a boil. Now we're going to do a simple method, and that is we're going to use the food processor to finish this up. Okay. Into the food processor with the metal blade. There's our paste. And now we're going to add 1 egg at a time. While this is still hot, add an egg and pulse 1 egg in there. And we're going to pulse it several times. We want that to mix through well. Each egg is going to be pulsed into the dough. You can also do this with a hand mixer, and you can do this with a wooden spoon, which is the way my aunt taught me to do it. But boy, that takes a lot of muscle on your arm. That's the second egg. I'm pulsing it through. We're going to do that each egg. Ready for the 4th egg and the last egg. And we're going to mix this through. You want the dough or the paste to be shiny and not too dry. So there we go. Last egg. Okay. Now, on an ungreased cookie sheet, I'm using 2 very large teaspoons. And you can make your puffs as large or as small as you want. I like them fairly large. So I'm doing a real heaping teaspoon. And just plop it down. They will puff up, but they won't spread out. So let's see how many we can get on here. By the way, this paste can be made ahead of time and can be kept in the refrigerator for up to 4 hours before you actually bake your puffs. So if you want to make this earlier in the day, you can. This should make about the size I want. I should get about 12 puffs out of this. And we're going to bake it in a preheated oven. And the oven has been preheated to 400 degrees. If you want this recipe printed out, want to see it printed out, you can just go to my blog. And you'll be able to get the printed recipe on my blog, which is maryahern.com. I was able to get 8, because these are really large, but you can get 12 and even smaller if you want. They're going to go in the oven, the 400-degree oven, for 10 minutes. I set my timer, and after 10 minutes, we're going to turn the temperature down to 350 degrees, and then they're going to cook 20 to 25 minutes until they're golden brown and when you touch them, they feel firm and as if they're dry inside as well. While I'm waiting for the cream puffs to cook, I'm going to start on my chocolate sauce. This could be made even several days in advance and kept in the refrigerator and then just warmed up again in the microwave. So let's go ahead and start with that. And I'm using 3 squares of unsweetened chocolate. I like Baker's unsweetened chocolate squares. So we're going to put 3 squares, again in a heavy-duty saucepan, and half a cup of water. We're going to let that slowly cook. We want the chocolate to melt, and we'll keep an eye on that and stir that every once in a while to incorporate the water and the chocolate. So we're basically just melting the chocolate right now. This is slowly melting, and I'm doing this on low heat. You don't want to burn your chocolate. Once this is melted, this is the time we're going to add our sugar, and we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of sugar. Get that through. And we're going to let this cook until the sugar melts. And we're going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Continue stirring until the sugar melts. It's completely melted and the sauce is thick. Sugar has melted. It's incorporated into the chocolate. And now we're going to add 4½ tablespoons of butter and 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So let's say 3/4, a little less than a teaspoon. There we go. And stir that through. Look at how rich that is, until the butter is completely melted. And you have a fantastic chocolate sauce. The butter is almost melted, and this would be once the butter is melted, we would turn it off the heat. When you're ready to serve this on your cream puffs, we do want it warm though, so we might have to reheat this again in the microwave. Also, you might want to add a liqueur. That's optional. You could add creme de menthe, which would give it a great flavoring, triple sec and orange liqueur, or even Chambord to give it more of a raspberry flavor. I had lowered the temperature after 10 minutes from 400 degrees to 350. Then when they're at 350, you cook them for 20 more minutes. Check and see if they're golden brown, which they are, and if they feel firm, and they do. So I'm going to take them, put them on the top of the stove a second, and I'm going to poke them with a toothpick. And that helps the steam to escape and helps the cream puffs to dry out. You want them dried out in the center. You want a hole, opening in the center. So turning off the heat, putting them back in the oven, and they're going to go into the oven, turned off oven, for another 10 minutes. Cream puffs have been cooling in the oven, sitting in the oven for 10 minutes. And now we're going to put them on a cooling rack, and we're going to let them thoroughly cool before we fill them. If you don't want to fill them the same day you make them, you can put them in a Ziploc bag and keep them refrigerated, or you can even make these in advance and put them in a freezer Ziploc bag and freeze them for at least a week. Ready to stuff them and get ready to eat them. I'm using a serrated knife, or you could use your bread knife to cut them in half. And oh, that looks great. So let's cut them in half, and this is what we do. Put a glob, whatever you want to call it, of whipped cream in the bottom half. Top it with the top and put it in your serving dish. Let's do the second one. Bottom half, some whipped cream. The whipped cream is just done with a little bit of vanilla extract, and some sugar. And then I whipped it up till it forms stiff peaks. Okay, so we got 2 cream puffs ready. Let's do the other 2. Okay, ready to do some chocolate sauce. You might want to keep the chocolate sauce on the table for people who might want to have a little bit more. Pour that on top. I have some still warming in the pot. And there we go. They're ready for the dining room table. Cream puffs with warm chocolate topping.